So, I haven't been on on YouTube in a while. Um, I've been super busy. This year has just been a crazy year. It's just been um, I'm in school right now, and I really wanted to do this podcast at least once a week, and I started losing focus and kind of been trying to juggle my priorities, and I've been trying to figure out what that word actually means. Priorities, like, at first I need to define the word before I can even, you know, get it in order, get those things in order. But school has become the top priority. Anyways, um, the reason I started this podcast, I'll actually say right now why I even started this podcast in the first place is I had a lot of um, as I was working or as I was driving, even at school, I would get these questions or I would get these prompts or ideas, and I would think to myself, like, there's no way I could just go on Instagram and just type this in, like, talk about it on Instagram. Like, nobody's gonna, like, two people out of the whatever are gonna see that, and then the rest of the people are just gonna go, scroll through it and, like, not even pay attention. Because I started this podcast so I could voice those ideas, and a podcast is probably the number one thing that I can just do to get my ideas across, or my opinions and my beliefs and things like that. Um, and so it actually helps with Instagram addiction, because I have an addiction. Not really addiction, like, every time I say addiction, people are like, oh, no, you don't have an addiction. I'm an addiction expert. You don't have an addiction. No, like, people are just like, they think they know. They think they could say you do or you don't have this or that, but, like, I come to conclusions myself, and I diagnose myself with whatever it is. Like, Instagram is to me Instagram is so easy to just post my thoughts, and I'll just go on Instagram and say something, say anything, like, you know. And to me, maybe that's not an addiction, but it's a compulsion. I feel I feel an urge to um just say shit. And sometimes it's like I don't even really need to say that. But with a podcast, nobody really cares. Like, you can just ramble, which is why I'm doing this. But when it comes to Instagram, um whenever I started doing this podcast, I focused less on posting on Instagram, because that's kind of the goal of myself. Like, my goal is to get away from social media and, like, kind of move everything to YouTube, which I don't really consider social media, because I'm not on it every single day communicating with other people, you know? But Instagram, you're communicating with people every day. If you're in group chats, or if you're, you know, whatever, sending posts to your friends, you know. But YouTube to me is, like, the best platform to just do something that's worth creating. And so let me just get into the topic of today. Um, Today I wanted to talk about Christianity. That's actually something that I think about all the time. It's something I've thought about since I was a kid, because I grew up in a Christian home. I grew up in a Christian school until about sixth grade. Sixth grade was when I went into just like a public school, but I was in a private school for all those years up until sixth grade. And so I remember I would always question, you know, how does infinity work? Like, I always wondered, like, how does heaven work and hell? Because I was terrified of both. Actually, I don't like the fact that I never liked the fact that you could be conscious for eternity. Like, that's kind of in general freaked me out, because being human is a terrifying thing. It's a terrifying experience because it's not positive, negative, or neutral. It's like everything. And the possibility of experiencing a negative emotion for eternity is always possible here. Like right now, in this moment, you can be in hell right now. Like your life could be living hell, or it can be a heaven. But most of the times, everyone is depressed or anxious or um, self-conscious and all that. But with Christianity, there's laws, and there's this thing called sin, and like everyone's probably heard of that, right? Sin. But like we all sin, and it seems as though whenever someone looks perfect, um, and they call themselves a Christian, to people that obviously don't look perfect, like perfect because nobody's perfect, right? But sinners, like people who kind of question God more than anyone else. Like, if you can just imagine, let's just have a hypothetical example of a woman who is um trying to put this like really cleanly or whatever, but like let's just say a loose woman, and she looks at this person who is perfect, like perfect, right? And he calls himself a Christian, or they call themselves a Christian, whoever it will be. To the sinner, it's almost as if um, they feel they're not worthy um, of anything, because it's hard. It's hard. It's very hard to live a righteous life, um, and my whole life I've never been able to um, never been able to, you know, grasp the concept of, you know, a righteous life, or like um, overcoming sin, because to me, as a child, I saw it as like you must avoid all of these things. You must avoid lust. You must avoid stealing. You must avoid lying. You must avoid um, whatever sin it may be. Greed, you know, gluttony. And the one I've struggled with my whole life is lust. And uh, people don't see that. That's something that no one really sees unless, you know, it's obvious. Like I was just saying, like for women it seems way more obvious, but for men, um, you can never really tell unless you're highly intuitive and you can pick up on, if you're even paying attention to how people live life, and like you can see that person as a person of um, virtue. or you look at a person and you're like, oh, that person struggles with um, lust. They struggle with adultery or whatever it may be. Um, I have this friend, and he was never raised in church, never raised to be Christian, never raised to believe anything like that. And as he's getting older, I'm like talking to him about God and everything, and I've always like brought it up because I'm a Christian. So um, he recently brought up this question, like, if people are Christians, then why do they struggle to follow their faith? Why do they struggle to be Christian? Why do they struggle to be that I forgot the way he was saying it, but it's pretty much the whole topic of today, like why it's so hard to be a Christian, or why it's so hard to have some kind of structure in your life, like something that you must complete, something you must do by choice and by understanding. Because when it comes to Christianity or religions in general or laws, you don't want to break the law. You don't want to break whatever the whatever it is, because then you would be disobeying God, or you'd be disobeying the Father. And people have lost respect um, for everything. It seems like we live in a world of disrespect. Um, Seems like everyone just kind of doesn't understand the meaning of the word respect. And that's why I believe people don't follow their faith or their religion. But there's many other reasons why people wouldn't stay true to their values. And one of them is respect, for sure. Um, you see this in relationships as well, and in families, and between friends, you know, and it goes under the rug for so long that you don't catch it at first whenever somebody disrespects you. I've been told that I talk very vaguely, and I've been told that I need to explain myself um, a lot of times. Um, so if you're not following me, I'm gonna have to probably give examples, but uh, I'm probably just gonna keep going anyways, like just keep talking vaguely. And if you have any questions, just leave it in the comments, and then I will talk about it there. But first of all, what even is respect? Like, what is respect? When you respect someone, you don't lie to them. You don't intentionally hurt them. And if something happens, you apologize. the other thing I'll say is that whenever you don't understand someone fully, um, that's another reason why people disregard their values or switch up on their values. Because I believe that everyone has some kind of underlying structure of values within them, even if they don't really follow through with them. Um, because I believe the reason they don't follow through is because they don't have respect for themselves or for others. That's one. And the other is they don't understand what they're doing wrong, or what the law is, or why what they're doing wrong is wrong. Um, and they don't understand the the repercussions or the outcomes of their actions. And it's hard. It's hard to be it's hard to be like that. Like, it's hard to live up to your words. I'm going to try to give an example of myself. I well, I don't really talk to people much. And when I do, I always try to be honest. But there's times where it's really hard to tell if I'm even being honest or not. If I'm even being my highest self. Because there's more than honesty. Like, there's more to honesty than physical, or like words. Like, there's more to honesty than words. Honesty is also a subconscious thing. It's something that it's the way you carry yourself, because who we are as a person, who we are as people, that's truly who we need to be honest with before we can be honest with someone else. And me, sometimes I feel like I'm not really who I want to be. And I've felt like that since I was a kid, because I've always wanted to fit in. And they say fit in is it's a wrong thing to do. They say it's wrong to want to fit in, because if you don't fit in, it means you don't belong. But since I was a kid, I was never able to, you know, really belong with the people I wanted to belong with. And I guess those people were sort of like bullies, but my whole life I've always wanted to be friends with the people that I couldn't be friends with, because I wanted to understand why someone could be so hateful towards me for never doing anything to them, so mean to me for never being mean to them. And I always wanted to talk to them about it. I always was curious, like, why are you mean to me? Because I'm not trying to start a fight with you. I mean, if I didn't like you, I wouldn't be talking to you. But you obviously don't like me, so, you know, whatever. And the friends I did have, it felt like felt like the friends that I could have had would have been more like me. But the school that I was in, which was a private school, the whole entire grade, like first grade, was one classroom. And it was like you move from this classroom to the next classroom, and then all of second grade is one classroom. And it's like that. It was like that. So the whole box that I was in was the people that I knew, my whole class that I knew. And you know, I always questioned everything. I always like tried to figure out why this is happening, and I never understood until years later. Only recently did I understand why somebody was jealous of me. Um I don't know how much I can say like on the internet, but I'm not giving any names, so I'll say that my bully in private school, he didn't have a mom, and he lived with his cousin, or I think it was his uncle. Can't remember. But yeah, he didn't have a mom, and my mom was she taught at the private school that I was attending, and so I would always be with her. She was always there whenever if I needed anything, I'd go to the classroom and talk to her. And he saw this and he was jealous, and I never understood that. I mean, I was probably first grade, so I don't know, 6 years old probably. I don't know how old I was, but I could never have understood those complex emotions of losing, not having a parent, because I had two parents at the while he didn't have a mom. And so now that time has gone on, I understand that, and my whole experience growing up, I always felt sorry for him. I always felt this great sorrow that I wish I could I wish he could feel the way I do. I wish he could see, you know, and I do wish that. And it's just a sad world that we live in. And I wish that it wasn't this sad. I wish that life wasn't so unfair. That's another topic that goes over my mind all the time that I really want to talk about. And if this goes, I'll talk probably 6 more minutes and leave it at 30 minutes or more. But the fact that life's unfair, and people kind of say it like it's a good thing, like they it's not really a good thing, but they say it like people say it, and it's supposed to motivate you to say life's unfair, move on, like get over it. I think that it could be more fair. It could be easier than it really is, because there are things that have happened that have brought me to the realization that there are certain things that in life that are just beyond unfair. And I think it's getting to the point where it's just getting harder and harder and harder. And like really there is a spiritual warfare going on, and the devil is really strong right now. It's sort of like in Star Wars when the Empire is taking control of the galaxy. The dark side became extremely powerful, And ultimately, the Empire won. He took over. The dark side took over. And the Jedi were no longer a thing until there's like little moments where there's Jedis in the galaxy or whatever. But like that, I know that sounds like left field. Like I know it sounds crazy. To me, stuff like that doesn't sound crazy because I understand it, but I guess some people don't really conceive analogies and metaphors the way I do and the way some other people do. Like I know that there's different perspectives and different personalities and people see things differently. So the whole thing about the dark side and the Star Wars analogy is like the devil is so powerful in this world. And the Bible actually says that, I don't know the exact scripture, but the Bible describes the world as the devil's kingdom. And one of my favorite scriptures talks about that we're in this world, but we're not of it. And that's actually what keeps me going. It's actually what keeps me from getting to those dark, low vibrational places where I start losing hope and losing whatever. Whenever I start feeling down, I think about that and I realize like there's a place set up for me. There is a place after this. And if I don't have that in my mind, there's no other way. There's no other way I can make it through this life, because I have to dream and I have to be centered, and that centers me in this world. But the things I think are unfair, beyond unfair, are the situations we get into, the situations we get ourselves into that lead to an experience that is unnecessarily the things we get ourselves into, the situations we get ourselves into that lead to unnecessarily negative experiences. I think that's what I would say is the reason why things are unfair. But what does that mean? Like, I guess in a sense, we don't understand completely what somebody means when they say something to us that hurts our feelings. I'll give an example. I'm terrible at like I'm terrible at the timing on the examples and the explaining all that, but I'll give an example. I have a friend who sent a message of this picture of this album that he had that was signed by this guy. And he sent it to a group chat that we're all in. And so whenever he sent it, somebody laughed. Like they put a laughing emoji on top of the picture. And then next thing I know, the friend that sent the picture of the album, he's telling me like, hey, that one guy, your other friend, he hurt my feelings when he laughed at my picture. And this is all on a phone screen. There's no human face-to-face contact, right? So right now, this actually happened today, and I'm telling him like, you got to understand that he probably wasn't intentionally trying to hurt your feelings. He probably thought, it's possible that he thought it was just a joke, and he didn't know that that you were being serious, because in this situation we're sending memes back and forth, and everything we send so far has been, we laugh at it, and we just laugh at it and laugh at it. But then you send this picture where it's kind of serious, because it's like something you like, you enjoy, and then of course he's gonna laugh at it because he didn't realize that it was a serious picture, because the situation we're in makes it to where we're not being serious, right? But when it comes to the social media conflicts, it's just a weird place. It's just the strangest place where you don't know what anybody's intention is, because you don't know if they're being ironic, you don't know if they're being serious, you don't know if they're being funny. You don't know if they hate you or if they love you, or if they're just being neutral and they're just being like whatever, you know? And it's really complicated. It's really hard to settle, resolve conflicts. Um, Especially if you see this person in 1 month in real life, then you text them and then something happens that hurts your feelings, and then there's this negative emotion that's building up, and then you only see them 6 months later, and it's like nothing happened, but deep down, one person's hurt and they're not saying anything, and there's just conflict being built up. And what I believe is that mental illness is really just bottled up inside of each and every one of us. And I believe mental illness is kind of the deepest unfairness that has been embedded in all of us in this lifetime, in this 21st century, because there's no way to resolve our conflicts. No easy way to resolve these conflicts now that we have conflicts on a screen that cannot be communicated organically. And the resolution of these conflicts cannot be satisfying across social media. They're not satisfying enough as if you were communicating in real life. And this is probably why everyone has become, we'll call them sissies instead of the other word, like, you know what I'm talking about. This is why I feel like people are becoming like really scared to stand up for themselves. And like, I could be wrong, this could have always been a thing, but the the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of factors in this day and age that contribute to our struggles internally and with those around us, that make everything so unfair. And if those problems could be resolved, if mental illness could be resolved, if communication could be more, like if we were more involved in a community of actual people, I honestly don't think that things would be as difficult as they are, because everything is just so, at least here in America, it seems that the quality of things has been watered down. The quality of our conversations, the quality of our daily lives. I mean, I could be wrong about all this. Right now, I'm really just talking straight out of straight off the top of my head. And this is actually some stuff that I think about all the time. I just never have talked about it to the camera or whatever, the internet. But I'm just going to admit I could be completely wrong. Just don't take anything I say as uh what's the saying that they say? Don't take anything that I say for oh my god, I really want to say this. It sucks when I have something really cool to say and I forget what it is. Like the cat got my tongue. I hate that. It happens to me all the time. I guess I'll just say don't take anything I say as law. I think that's what they say. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But thanks for listening. This is the Everything is Everything podcast. It's just me today, no guests. I would love to have a guest on the show. Just uh haven't had the motivation and I haven't had the focus to do it. I've been focused on school and other things. But yeah, thanks for listening.